Welcome back. Data download time. It seems that as our nation gets a bit more polarized, it becomes harder to find and define the swing voters that do still ultimately decide close elections. But when you break down Tuesday's results by how voters see President Biden, a pretty clearly defined swing voting bloc does emerge. It is voters who, quote, somewhat disapprove of the job President Biden is doing. Let me show you here. Look, as you can see, if you approve of the president, you voted in big numbers for Democrats. And if you strongly disapprove of President Biden, you voted big numbers for Republicans. But look at this. 10% told us they only somewhat disapprove of the job President Biden is doing. And they voted Democratic? Let me explain. Let's take two states here, New Hampshire and Georgia, where we saw a big split among these voters. Governor Sununu won re-election quite easily, and among somewhat Biden disapprovers, he won 60% of them. Don Bolduc lost the Senate race, a Trump-backed candidate. He only got 25%. Go to Georgia, a similar story. Governor Kemp wins 57% of these swing voters. Herschel Walker wins only 44% of these swing voters. And we saw this across the board, especially with the more Trump-associated candidates. Now, who are these voters? Well, they're young and they're independent. Overall, as you can see, 25% of the electorate was under the age of 35, but among the somewhat disapprovers, 50% of this group is in that age bracket, and they're very independent. Just 13% of the overall electorate call themselves independent. A quarter of this group calls themselves independent. And among the Democrats, they're way more progressive than the Democratic Party. Look at this. 62% of these somewhat disapprovers that identified as Democrat were Sanders Warren supporters. So it's very likely that they somewhat disapprove of President Biden because they don't think he's been progressive enough. Among the Republicans in this group, they are decidedly anti-Trump. As you can see, Republicans overall, 35% said they were Trump supporters. 57% told us that they were more Republican Party supporters. But among these disapprovers, 81% Republican, just 13% Trump supporters. So this was a group that didn't like the Trump wing of the party and seemed to vote that way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.